Shinra this, Mako that, and what the is Red 13. We're days away from players getting their hands on the next chapter of the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, Rebirth, which will dive into a large chunk of the original game's story. But there's been so much story already that even if you played Remake back in 2020, you might need a refresher. That's me. I need the refresher. So let's go on this journey together as we recap the story so far, leading up to the opening moments of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Final Fantasy VII Remake takes place in Midgar, a floating disc-shaped city comprising of 8 sectors. Those that can afford it live above the disc, and those that can't live beneath it. Shinra is not only the private corporation that oversees the distribution of electricity in Midgar, but is also its governing body. Its stranglehold over the city takes physical form in the shape of its Mako reactors, one powering each of the sectors of Midgar. The game opens up on an attack on one of these reactors by the freedom fighting group Avalanche. Dubbed eco-terrorists by Shinra, Avalanche is trying to destabilize the company, as it understands that the process of the life force, or Mako, being harvested from the earth below is slowly killing it. This squad is composed of Jesse, Wedge, Biggs, Barrett, and hired mercenary Cloud, a defected soldier in Shinra's army. Cloud is just in it for the payday, while the rest of the quintet are willing to risk their lives for the cause. The group successfully sets off a small bomb to destroy the reactor, but Shinra sets off a ton more bombs, so that Avalanche will take the fall for so much wanton destruction. As the group escapes, Cloud has a vision of his once mentor turned adversary Sephiroth, who basically kicks him while he's down by dragging up some past trauma. Cloud then runs into a woman selling flowers, Aerith, and through her, he is able to see hooded ghosts flying in the air. I wonder what that's about. Cloud meets up with the rest of Avalanche, and they make it to the slums of Sector 7, where their headquarters, a bar named Seventh Heaven, is located. This bar is owned by Tifa, who is also a childhood friend of Cloud's. The next day, after Tifa and Cloud do some odd jobs around the town to justify Remake's length, despite the portion of the original game it covers only being several hours long, Jessie approaches Cloud with another mission she needs help with. Cloud, Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge head topside, where they run into Shinra soldiers and their commander, Roche. After deeming Cloud a worthy opponent, Roche retreats when his sweet bike takes one too many hits. Jessie takes the group to her parents' house, where they swipe her dad's Shinra employee access card. Their plan is to raid a nearby depot for supplies for the next mission. At the supply depot, they encounter opposition, including Roche, who just couldn't wait to take Cloud on again. They are assisted by the real Avalanche, and it's at this point where it's revealed that Barrett's group is an offshoot that was made excommunicado for being too extreme. Says the group with the assault rifles and heavily armored troops. Cloud, Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge make it back to the Sector 7 slums with the supplies to take down another Mako reactor. While trying to get a good night's sleep after an evening of corporate subterfuge, Cloud is woken up by Tifa. The ghosts are back, and they're swarming the slums. In the commotion, Jessie sprains her ankle, leaving her unable to join the next mission. Barrett hires Cloud to take her place. Seriously, what are these ghosts up to? The next day, after overcoming several obstacles in order to reach the reactor, the group plants the bomb, now equipped with a remote detonator rather than a timer, but must face off against a new Shinra weapon of mass destruction, the Airbuster. The ensuing fight ends up separating Cloud from the rest of the group. After having some more visions of Sephiroth, I get it, dude. I can't stop thinking about him either. Cloud is discovered by Aerith once again. The pair are then interrupted by Reno, a member of the Turks, who is essentially Shinra's most elite and deadly task force. Reno and Cloud clash, but before Cloud can take out Reno, the ghosts show up again and drag Cloud and Aerith out of harm's way. I've had it with these ghosts in this game. Aerith and Cloud make it to Aerith's home in the Sector 5 slums, where Cloud agrees to help Aerith tackle, you guessed it, more odd jobs. On their way back to Aerith's house, Cloud gets into another fight with another Turk, Rude. No, it's not Rude, that's the guy's name, although I guess he is also kinda rude. Later, at Aerith's house, Cloud meets her mother Elmira. As he tries to sneak out later in the night, Aerith catches up to him and insists that he take her with him. To get to the slums of Sector 7 from the Sector 5 slums, the pair must cut through Sector 6, the underbelly of which is home to Wall Market, a source of entertainment for many on both the bottom and top of Midgar. On this journey, Aerith notes that Cloud reminds her of another Shinra soldier she used to know, but before that story thread can be expanded upon any further, the pair run into Tifa. Tifa has come to Sector 6 to investigate Don Corneo, the mob boss that runs Wall Market and has been asking around about Avalanche. Tifa is going to attempt to woo the Don in a pageant, which is a really pleasant way of describing that plan. Aerith wishes to help Tifa by also entering, and after a series of challenges, secures a sponsorship from Madame M, one of the pageant's benefactors. However, during these challenges, Cloud catches the eye of another benefactor, Andrea Rodea, who then, after a dance-off, gives Cloud a makeover and submits him as his entry. Now all three entrants are there to gain intel on Don Corneo. Corneo only has eyes for Cloud, but the three are ultimately able to corner the Don in his bedroom. After interrogation, Don Corneo reveals that he knows what Shinra plans to do about Avalanche. The corporation is going to drop the entirety of Sector 7 on the slums below it, and blame the devastation on Avalanche, as well as the nation of Wutai, a foreign power that is hostile to Midgar and is helping bankroll the freedom fighters. The trio attempt to escape to relay this information to the rest of the group, but Don Corneo opens up a trapdoor, dropping them into the sewers. The trio fight through a slew of monsters to escape the sewers, exiting into an infamously haunted train yard. While there, they manage to tap into the Turks' comms via an old radio, a conversation between Rude and Reno confirming the Don's intel. When they finally get back to the Sector 7 slums, Avalanche is engaged in a firefight with Shinra helicopters, encircling the pillar that holds up the plate above. Aerith is tasked with heading to 7th Heaven in order to protect Barrett's daughter Marlene. However, she runs into the leader of the Turks, Sang, who threatens to kill Marlene if Aerith doesn't return to Shinra with him. More on why in a bit. Back at the pillar, Cloud and Tifa find both Jessie and Biggs mortally wounded. At the top, they help Barrett face down Rude and Reno right before the ghosts show up once again to do some meddling. They tragically hold Wedge in place, preventing him from escaping, as Sector 7 comes crashing down. And then this cat thing shows up. Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett mourn the losses of Jessie, Biggs, and Wedge as they travel to Aerith's house, where Marlene is safe and sound under the watchful eye of Elmira. Aerith has indeed been taken in by the Turks. Elmira then explains why Shinra wants Aerith. She's the last of the Ancients, a race of magical beings that were the dominant species on Earth before humans. Elmira is Aerith's adoptive mother, having taken her in after the death of her real mother. Shinra believes that Aerith knows the way to an infinite source of Mako thanks to her legendary lineage. You can imagine why that would be something it'd want to find. The trio leaves Marlene in Elmira's custody before returning to the devastated Sector 7 slums to help those that remain. As they do so, they discover a secret Shinra lab where, surprise, Wedge is alive. As they rescue him, the ghosts show up once again to pull all four of them out. Elmira gets another adopted child as the gang leaves Wedge in her care while he recovers. The team then plans to break into Shinra headquarters and save Aerith. Only problem is Midgar is essentially on lockdown after the collapse of Sector 7. The group reluctantly decides to try and get assistance from the one person they know that could help them get topside, Don Corneo. When they arrive at his mansion, they find it ransacked. As one of his remaining henchmen explains, Shinra retaliated after learning that the Don leaked its plan to Avalanche. They learn that Corneo fled into the very same sewers that he trapped the group in previously. The trio once again descend into the depths, aided by one of Corneo's assistants, Leslie, who only joined up with the Don to get close enough to him to take him out, after he claimed Leslie's fiancée for himself. Leslie gets ahead of the group and finds Corneo, pulling a gun on him, but the Don easily disarms his former henchman. Because he can't keep his trap shut, Corneo reveals that Shinra intends to scrap the entirety of Midgar to set up a new base of operations in the Promised Land, the hidden location of the infinite source of Mako, and that Corneo revealing its Sector 7 plans to Avalanche cost him his ticket out of the city. A giant beast that dwells in the sewers known as Abzu shows up, allowing the Don to escape. The heroes face down the creature before Leslie plans to give chase to Corneo. Tifa stresses that Leslie should let go of his revenge, and instead put that energy toward finding out what happened to his fiancée and find out if she's even still alive, which, probably should have been something he'd attempted from the start. Leslie thanks the group and gives them grappling hooks to help them get up to the top side of Midgar. After facing down horde after horde of Shinra baddies on their journey upward, the group eventually, successfully, infiltrates the evil corporation's headquarters. But they're not the only ones that have made it there. Sephiroth has arrived, and in the flesh, not just in Cloud's visions. After making their way through the building, our heroes are able to get their hands on Professor Hojo, Shinra's resident evil scientist, and force him to take them to his laboratory where he's keeping Aerith. They rescue their friend, as well as Red 13, a talking dog that is the result of one of Hojo's experiments. The party licks their wounds in a room that used to act as an apartment for Aerith and her real mother Ifalna, before they escaped and Ifalna left Aerith in Elmyra's care. Aerith reveals that the real name for her race, the Ancients, is actually the Cetra, and that Shinra had been trying to find the location of the Promised Land from her and Ifalna for quite some time. Aerith reveals to her allies that she has no idea how to find it. The ghosts are back, and it's at this moment we get a little insight into what the hell they actually are. Red 13, for some reason, has the intel, and reveals that the ghosts are whispers that are trying to correct the course of the story, with the intention of pushing Aerith in particular in a specific direction. You see, the whispers have arrived at key moments in the game that have deviated from the plot of the original. They caused Jessie to hurt her ankle before heading into the Sector 5 reactor, a mission she planned to undertake but never did in the 1997 iteration. They prevented Cloud from taking out Reno at the end of their first fight, a battle that never took place in the original game. Basically, anytime Remake deviates from the storyline of the original Final Fantasy VII, the Whispers have showed up to try and get it back on its destined track. Before being able to ponder too much on the Whispers, the gang get a call from Wedge, who informs them that Avalanche is sending a helicopter to pick them up from the roof. The group make their way there, coming across a room with a large chamber as they do so. In the center, the decrepit body of a woman is connected to all the machinery around it. Aerith reveals the name of the woman is Genova, which triggers yet another Sephiroth vision for Cloud. But wait, Sephiroth is actually there! He destroys the catwalk the group is standing on, causing them to fall to the bottom of the containment structure. Red 13, cementing himself as the resident explainer of just what the hell is going on, reveals that all of the creatures and contraptions that Cloud and the gang have had to face down over the course of the game have been the results of Hojo's experimentations with Genova. The group fight their way through more of these experiments and eventually get back to Genova's chamber, but her body is gone, a trail of purple liquid leading from where she was being held. The trail leads to the Shinra president's office, and the gang finds the old man hanging off the side of his helipad. Barrett agrees to rescue him, in return for clearing Avalanche's name, but once on solid ground, the president pulls a gun on his savior. The moment is interrupted by Sephiroth, who not only takes out President Shinra, but Barrett too. However, since Barrett doesn't die here in the original game, the Whispers show up and revive him. Sephiroth disappears with Genova's body as the Avalanche helicopter shows up outside. Unfortunately, that helicopter gets taken out by the Turks, who arrive with Vice President Rufus Shinra, the now deceased president's son and now the new president of Shinra. He faces off against Cloud before jumping back into the safety of his helicopter and taking out the helipad. Fortunately, Tifa is there to save Cloud before he falls to his death, which would have really required a lot of heavy lifting from the Whispers if that were to have happened. Barrett, Aerith, and Red 13 are looking for a new way out of Shinra HQ. Wedge shows up to help them, but the Whispers show up to throw him out of a window, dead set on making sure that Wedge dies like he does in the original game. His fate is, however, left a mystery to the players. As Barrett, Aerith, and Red 13 become surrounded by Shinra forces, Cloud shows up on his bike, while Tifa picks the trio up in the back of a van, and our heroes break out onto the freeway. Once they leave Shinra's forces in the dust, Sephiroth appears once again. This is when things get nutty. The Whispers begin to swarm the group, initiating a vision of Zack Fair, a man dressed incredibly similar to Cloud, even wielding the same sword. We will have a whole video coming soon on Zack for you to learn everything you need to know about him. He is very important to the story of Final Fantasy VII. Sephiroth opens up a portal among the swirling whispers and beckons Cloud to follow him into it. Aerith stands between the portal and the rest of the group, warning them that if they give chase to Sephiroth, they will be untethering themselves from the fated timeline. The group ultimately decides to step through the portal, where they encounter whisper after whisper, trying to prevent them from changing fate. As they do so, they get glimpses of that fated future. They ultimately came face to face with the man himself, with Cloud seemingly delivering the final blow against him. This act pulls him into a swirling cosmos, where Sephiroth also appears, revealing that their actions have finally unwritten the once destined future. Sephiroth asks that Cloud join him in writing a new future, but as you can imagine, our boy is not down for such an offer. The pair square off yet again, with Sephiroth ultimately disarming his former protege. However, Sephiroth refuses to kill Cloud, seemingly curious to see what he does in this now uncertain future. We then get to see glimpses of what is possible in this new reality, revealing that Biggs, who also died in the first game, actually survived the collapsing of Sector 7, with hints that Jesse might be alive as well. Undoing Destiny has seemingly also altered the past, as we get shots of Zack, who originally died in the lead up to the original game, now having survived his previously final moments. The game ends with the group stepping out into the open world that will serve as the setting for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, an ocean of limitless possibilities now awaiting them. However, we're not done yet. Remake got a DLC story expansion titled Intermission, and considering it sets up key characters that will appear in Rebirth, it'd be best to quickly run through those plot beats as well. The events of Intermission primarily take place during the middle of the game, during the events of Cloud, Aerith, and Tifa's time in Wall Market when they first encounter Don Corneo. The DLC focuses around Yuffie, the daughter of the leader of Wutai, who has been tasked with infiltrating the floating city and stealing materia from Shinra. Materia, for those unfamiliar, are basically crystallized Mako that can grant its users powers. In Remake, they functioned as a way for the player to modify the character's abilities. Yuffie is accompanied by her father's right-hand man, Sonon, and the pair meet up with the real Avalanche, not Barrett's splinter group, who are assisting them with the mission. Yuffie and Sonon acquire ID cards to get into Shinra HQ, whilst also overhearing rumblings of something about to go down in Sector 7. I wonder what that could be. Sonon and Yuffie get into the headquarters undercover, before being discovered by the head of Shinra's weapons department and the person in charge of materia development. The pair defeat the director's prototypes, but ultimately discover that the materia they plan to steal is non-functional. They also learn about Shinra's plans to drop Sector 7 on the slums below it. The two then have to face off against Nero the Sable, the leader of an elite squadron of Shinra's forces. Nero tragically kills Sonon, but Yuffie manages to escape, just in time to witness the collapse of the Sector 7 plate. Bummer. As Yuffie retreats from Midgar, she vows to take revenge on Shinra and to find like-minded warriors who can aid her in her quest. We then get yet another moment with Zack, who has arrived at the church in Sector 5, where Cloud had his first fight with Reno. The church is filled with refugees of Sector 7, but Zack is there looking for one person in particular, Aerith. And that is the entire recap of the story of Final Fantasy VII Remake and Intermission to prep you for the release of FF7 Rebirth. As I mentioned, we'll have a video dedicated to Zack, the star of the Final Fantasy VII prequel Crisis Core, and an integral character to the overarching story, as well as understanding what Sephiroth's whole deal is. But that's not all. We have a whole heap of content dropping in the lead up to the launch of the game on February 29th, as well as a ton of stuff that will be waiting for you once you've played it. So make sure to like and subscribe for more Final Fantasy VII right here on GameSpot.